MMA Now, powered by Film On TV Networks.
I'm David Gill with Film on TV Network's MMA Now. I'm going to go over some news that was breaking right now today. Chris Weidman is out versus Luke Rockhold at UFC 199. Say it again twice, 3 times. Chris Weidman is out. Another injury bug forces a replacement challenger for a champion. Rafael dos Anjos was out versus McGregor. We've had these injuries pop up where someone has had to come in and really replace either the champion or the challenger. And Chris Weidman, this is one of the bigger fights of the year. Luke Rockhold upset the world. He shocked the world when he beat Chris Weidman. Maybe this wasn't as huge of an upset. Luke Rockhold obviously had a good shot in the fight, and he took advantage of his opportunity when Chris Weidman threw that spinning heel kick and missed. And let's just go over Chris Weidman's stats. It was Chris Weidman's first loss, not just in the UFC ever. He TKO'd Vitor Belfort. He beat Machida. Anderson Silva, the only one to beat Anderson Silva decisively twice. One obviously was due to that horrific leg injury. The other one, Silva has his hands down, and it was a legit TKO. He beat Mark Munoz, Damian Maia, Tom Lawler, and his progression to the top was pretty quickly. His career started in 2009, and he became champion less than in 2013. So 4 years to become a champion, that's a pretty quick ascension. Luke Rockhold, there's no opponent name yet, but Rockhold said that he'll fight anyone, anytime, and anywhere. What does this mean in the middleweight division? We don't know yet. Michael Bisping has thrown his name into the hat. On Twitter, he said, I'm ready, I'm down, I'm a real fighter. And he also took a little knock at Chris Weidman, saying that this is where fighters are really known. We'll pull up his exact saying on Twitter. But it was something to the notion that real fighters in training camp, that's where you know what they're really made out of. This is the exact quote from Michael Bisping's Twitter, where he said, "Training camp separate the boys from the men. This sport isn't for everyone. 2 weeks notice? ? I'm down." He tagged UFC, real fighter, fighters, fighter. He followed that tweet up with saying, I've seen less brittle Pringles than some of these middleweights. And then he hashtagged USADA, USADA, which is the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. Is that a knock towards Chris Weidman? Is that a knock to someone? What did Michael Bisping mean by hashtagging USADA? We don't know. The other thing would be Jacare. Jacare is coming off a win over Vitor Belfort, the co-main event at UFC 198, in a match where he didn't get hurt. He mauled Vitor Belfort. We went over this with MMA Now correspondent Ryan Shepard, and this could be a quick turnaround. I mean, Jacare called out for a title fight. He's lost to Luke Rockhold in Strikeforce before, in a pretty quick, not quick, but in a close decision victory. He thinks that he won that fight. So him versus Rockhold, that would eliminate all talk of that fight and really set up the winner would probably fight Weidman when Weidman is back from the injury. There's no timetable yet. The injury is still not disclosed. And here's a couple notes from Twitter. Pill Cosby says at JEdgar96, get Jacare or Bisping. One of them can step up a show. We have Aaron Michael, who's Woodley, World Peace. He says, shaking my head. Young boy Dolce, Brian _805, using an expletive to explain what happened between Chris Weidman being out. And then Kalolo Martin, he's at Kalolo the Man. Is Bisping a gatekeeper? We don't know if Bisping's going to be a gatekeeper or if he's going to come in and step in for the fight. We probably will know by tomorrow, in the next couple of days, who's going to fill in that slot. But you'll know first here on MMA Now TV. The other big news is Tyron Woodley is in versus Robbie Lawler. There's been speculation, is he in, is he out? We know that he was waiting for that title shot. A lot of fans saying he's undeserving of that title shot. Dana White promising Tyron Woodley the title shot after Johnny Hendricks couldn't make weight and was forced off the card last year. So it's official, Woodley is going to be in at UFC 201 against Robbie Lawler in Atlanta. Let's set up this fight. Tyron Woodley, he's been in there, Strike Force veteran, and and I think he's wanted this shot for a while. Some of the fights, he had a fight with Kelvin Gastelum, which Kelvin Gastelum did miss weight. And I actually thought that Woodley, even though he won a decision, actually that was his last fight, split decision win over Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 183. I thought Gastelum won the fight, and I didn't think that was enough. If you're winning a split decision, that's not enough to propel you to a title shot. His fight before was Dong Yeon Kim, where he TKO'd Dong Yeon Kim. But the fight previous to that was Rory McDonald in a fight where he was really dominated by Rory. It was a stand-up fight. That's what Tyron wanted, and Rory just boxed him up against the cage, and Woodley wasn't really able to do much. Previous to that, Carlos Condit fell out of the fight with a knee injury, and then he had Josh Koscheck, and then where he beat Koscheck by KO, and he lost a split decision to Jake Shields. Again, is that worthy of a title shot for against Robbie Lawler? You have Wonder Boy who knocked out Johnny Hendricks, something that had never been done before. Some people said this was a little bit too early for Wonder Boy to get a title shot, and so he was set up with Rory a little bit later this year. But it's in. Tyron Woodley is in versus Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler obviously coming off the win over Carlos Condit in a 5-round war. And Robbie's been in a lot of wars. His previous fight was Rory McDonald in what was I dubbed, or MMA now dubbed, the fight of the year. These guys went toe-to-toe. They went at it. Robbie Lawler was hurt. He was almost TKO'd. Rory McDonald eventually, I believe it was a broken orbital bone, and that just finally put him out. Both these guys, Robbie Lawler has taken a lot of major battles throughout the years. So how is this going to play out with Tyron Woodley? Is Woodley going to try to take this to the ground? Does he want to stand with Robbie Lawler and kind of feel his power? That'll be interesting to see, but this will eliminate any talk of Woodley saying he wants a title shot. This is his shot. He's going to have to either take advantage of it, or we'll see if there's a difference between championship caliber Lawler versus Woodley. Moving on to a little bit fun story. Paige VanZant is in the finals on Dancing with the Stars. Paige, obviously, she was coming off a decision loss. Actually, no, she got submitted by Rose in the 3rd round of their fight in December. And then she took on Dancing with the Stars, in which she's now a household name. And really, she was submitted actually in the 5th round. I'm sorry, not the 3rd round. They were the main event, UFC Fight Night, December 10th. But now she's a household name. She's on ABC, and she's propelled the UFC to a higher caliber, to a more mainstream. She's not done what Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey's done, but she's still done a great job of representing the UFC. Now she's in the finals, and she goes against that stereotype of what a woman fighter looks like, meaning she can dance. She came from a dance background, and now she's in the finals on Dancing with the Stars. Is she going to come back? Is she going to fight? I'm sure the quick answer for her would be yes. But when she's going into the prime of her career and she's taking this time out to do Dancing with the Stars, in which she's done well, why risk it and get back into the cage, into a full training camp, when you lost 6 months of training, which could have been full-on training, 2-a-days, to really get her skill level to the next level? Speaking of Paige VanZant, there was some beef talk that Miesha Tate brought up between her and Ronda Rousey, where Ronda Rousey cursed her out, called her fake, and really, Miesha Tate, I don't know if she said this, or she said this on Joe Rogan's podcast. Did she say it to throw a little fire between her and Ronda Rousey? But she said that Paige had relayed to her. She went up to Rhonda and wanted to talk with her. And Rhonda was really rude and was upset that she had congratulated Holly Holm on her victory. Rhonda called her fake, and Paige was completely blown away by Rhonda's attitude. Rhonda has not talked about the story, and it's a thing from a fighter standpoint. When someone else is congratulating someone that beat you, and then they come up to you, is that gamesmanship? Is it sportsmanship? Is that where's ethics in that? And I know Paige came from the standpoint, from an innocent standpoint, saying, "Hey, I was just congratulating her. I would have congratulated you if you won." But now you're getting into that gray area of, well, she would knock me out, and now you're trying to ask me for advice, trying to talk to me. And is that cool? Is it cool? If it was, I'm not a fighter, but if that was me, that's not cool. You congratulating someone that did better than me. Let's just tie it into. I guess I mean you can't really tie it into a sport though. I mean football is different, basketball is different, baseball is different. You can congratulate someone else, but it's not the same. They're not knocking you out. They're not putting you down. They're not submitting you. And Ronda Rousey has that same type of mentality of loyalty, of you're either with me or you're against me, and really no in between. And people knock Ronda for that. And there's the other side too of fighters showing sportsmanship and gamesmanship and wanting to, go hang out. There's Lyoto Machida and Mark Munoz, who were trained under the same, not under the same camp, but under the same banner. They were friends. And afterward, Machida knocked Munoz out and they ate dinner where Machida paid. Is that cool? I mean, that's a whole nother debate of you just knocked me out. We're supposed to be friends. How are we friends and having a steak dinner afterward? Like, for coming from my standpoint, if someone knocked me out and they wanted to go have dinner, even if they paid, I don't want that. I I'd want someone. I would want to get back at you, or have someone else get back at you, because for me, it's not the same thing as a sport. You could beat me in a game of basketball or a game of throwing a football and whatnot, and cool, you go treat. But being knocked out, being submitted, you trying to harm me is a whole nother thing. Anyway, Ronda Rousey, UFC 205. She was slated to maybe come on for the New York show. Dana White is saying it may not happen. Ronda may not be ready for that. So we'll see. Where Ronda has been under the radar. TMZ has caught her a couple of times. Really, her mom, where we found out that she had some Caribbean, Afro Caribbean in her, which I had no idea by looking at Ronda Rousey. But you never know. Also, we had on the news, this made news a couple days ago, Donald Cerrone, the John Jones situation, where Cerrone allegedly almost got into it with John Jones over making some comments. Jones took issue with Cerrone talking about his lifestyle before it came out that Jones had a wild side to him. And Cerrone was basically said that he told him, like, let's go. Let's get it on. It doesn't matter. The situation was completely, it was stopped. They didn't mix it up. They were separated. And Donald Cerrone said that they have become better friends because of it. Kind of an interesting story. I wonder what John Jones' take would be on the story, and would this add fuel to the story and maybe make Jones say something else. Kind of an interesting story that came out of left field. Also, was this thing kind of flew under the radar. Tony Ferguson, UFC lightweight, who's really been on a tear, supposed to fight Khabib in April, was forced out due to injury. And he tweeted this. Now he's slated to fight Michael Chiesa at UFC Fight Night in South Dakota. But he said this on Twitter. He said, in regards to Conor McGregor, quote, on his Twitter, setting standards and locations for others to follow, i.e., at the Notorious MMA. You rented the gym I train at with my trainer. Hashtag back to Ireland, traitor, unquote. That was on his Twitter feed. He got some good interactions with it as far as people took notice. and which he's saying Conor McGregor's out here in Los Angeles, rented out his gym to do some training, and he took issue with it. Here's some of the comments what people had to say. They were on both sides of the fence. Let's see. At Aberrant Terry said, "Put your red panties away. You got saved by that injury." At New York K Every Day said, "Yeah, and Conor flat out ran from Nate Diaz, and he wasn't even injured." Mac Dyer 2 says, "Geez, Tony, are you looking for free publicity? You know, show, yeah." I guess that's some Irish for you. "Don't worry, mate. You stay bitter. Still running from Khabib." Tony didn't answer any of the fans' engagements. It's kind of interesting. He took a little knock at Conor McGregor, and it goes back to that whole ethics, gamesmanship. Is it cool for another fighter, even though they're not exactly in your weight division, to rent out the place where you're at? Which brings us to more Mayweather and McGregor news. This story will not die. Floyd Mayweather now says that he'll only come out of retirement to fight Conor McGregor in a straight boxing match. And he says that this fight could do bigger numbers than his fight against Manny Pacquiao. McGregor adds fuel to the fire as well by saying, "I run boxing," and we all saw his poster tweeted of Mayweather versus McGregor on a poster. This fight will probably not happen. Could it happen? Are there ways that it could happen? Yes. But the probability of it happen is very low. Well, that'll do it for MMA Now TV. We'll see you again tomorrow on some Daily Dose and some more MMA TV news. Make sure you follow us on MMA Now TV.
MMA Now, powered by Film on TV Network.